On Thanksgiving, my uncle blocked the door and said, "You're not family anymore, leave." I saw my mom laughing behind him, handing my seat to my sister's boyfriend. I just nodded, got back in my car, and sent the message I'd been saving for months. 5 minutes later, half the table stood up and walked out. I didn't bring a pie to dinner. I brought a manila folder, but I decided to leave it in the car. When I walked up to my childhood home, the smell of roasted turkey and sage stuffing hit me before I even reached the porch. It was supposed to be a peacemaking dinner. That's what my mom had promised on the phone. I opened the front door, slipping off my coat. The chatter from the dining room was loud, warm, and inviting. Then my Uncle Dave stepped into the hallway. He's a massive guy, a former high school linebacker who never let the glory days go, and he physically blocked the archway. "Hold on, buddy," Dave said, crossing his heavy arms. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried enough for the room to suddenly go quiet. "You're not family anymore, leave." I froze. I looked past his broad shoulder into the dining room. There were 12 people at the table. My cousins, my aunt, my grandfather, but my eyes immediately locked onto my mom. She wasn't shocked. She wasn't defending me. She was laughing. A quiet, dismissive little chuckle as she patted the back of my usual chair at the head of the table. Standing next to her was my younger sister, Chloe, and her newest boyfriend, a guy I'd never even met. My mom pulled my chair out for him. "Sit here, sweetie," she said to the total stranger. They were replacing me, not just at the table, but in the family. For a year, I had been the family scapegoat simply because I finally stopped paying my mom's credit card bills. I set a financial boundary, and in my family, a boundary is an act of war. I looked back at Uncle Dave. He was smirking, waiting for me to yell, waiting for me to cause a scene so they could all validate their twisted narrative that I was the unstable, aggressive one. I didn't give them the satisfaction. "Okay," I said quietly. I gave a single calm nod. "Happy Thanksgiving." I turned around, put my coat back on, and walked out the front door. I heard the deadbolt click shut behind me, followed by a muffled, mocking cheer from my sister. The air outside was freezing, biting at my face, but I didn't feel cold. I just felt completely, devastatingly clear. I got into my car and started the engine. The heater kicked on, blasting against my frozen hands. I pulled out my phone. 3 months ago, when I was helping my grandfather set up his new laptop, I found an email chain he wasn't supposed to see. It was between my mom and Uncle Dave. They had secretly convinced Grandpa to sign over the deed to the family cabin, a property that was legally supposed to be left to all of his children, including Aunt Sarah. Worse, Mom and Dave had already mortgaged it to pay off Dave's failing business debts and my mom's shopping addiction. In those emails, they mocked Aunt Sarah for struggling to pay rent. They called Grandpa a senile old fool. They laughed about how easy it was to drain the family trust right under everyone's noses. I had taken screenshots of everything: bank transfers, deeds, the brutal, insulting messages. I compiled them into a single, undeniable PDF. I had saved it on my phone, praying I'd never have to ruin a family to prove my worth, but they had just looked me in the eye and told me I wasn't family anymore. I opened the extended family group chat, 22 members. I attached the PDF. The message I typed was simple. I was just kicked out of Thanksgiving because I stopped funding Mom and Dave's lifestyle. Here is how they've been funding it instead. "I'm so sorry, Aunt Sarah. Read page 4. I hit send. I didn't drive away. I put the car in park and watched the bay window of the dining room. For 2 minutes, nothing happened. Then I saw the faint blue glow of phone screens lighting up around the table. One by one, heads looked down. At minute 3, Aunt Sarah stood up. Even through the double-paned glass, I heard the muffled shriek of her voice. She threw her cloth napkin directly into my mother's face. Uncle Dave reached out to grab Sarah's arm, but my older cousin Mike shoved Dave so hard he knocked over a dining chair. Total chaos erupted. My mom was backing against the wall, her hands up, her face pale as a sheet. My golden child sister and her new boyfriend were just standing there, completely paralyzed. At minute 5, the front door swung open. Aunt Sarah stormed out, tears streaming down her face, carrying the casserole dish she'd brought. Following right behind her were my cousins, my aunt's husband, and finally, my grandfather, looking heartbroken but furious, being gently guided down the steps by Mike, exactly half the table. As they walked down the driveway, Mike caught my eye through my windshield. He stopped, stood up straight, and gave me a grim, respectful nod. They got into their cars and started their engines. I watched my mom and Uncle Dave stand in the open doorway of the house, looking out at the mass exodus in pure shock. The cold air rushed into their perfect dinner. They wanted me gone. Now I was, and I took the real family with me.